Why Arkansas and Little Rock on MLK Day? You've been endorsed by the mayor of Memphis. You could go to Atlanta, where MLK was from. Why here?
Arkansas has, or Little Rock has the same history as Tulsa, Oklahoma, in terms of there was a terrible event that took place a while ago, but both cities have changed and evolved and today have thriving, healthy, multiracial communities. So that's one of the good reasons. Arkansas was on my way. I'm trying to go to all of the different cities, particularly those in Super Tuesday and then 7 days later and 14 days later. My strategy, I couldn't enter the early four because I came in so late that the staffs were already in place and you couldn't do that. So I'm going to all of the other states. And in 7 weeks, I think I've been to 22, 23 states. Not all, but most of them at least twice, and then to 45 odd cities. So it's a part of that strategy. But in terms of just being here on MLK Day, it's a good hook because of the Tulsa history and this history, and I gave a speech in Tulsa about this yesterday.
You've been endorsed by several mayors of large cities for your campaign. How do you plan to appeal beyond that to folks in rural areas?
Well, I think a lot of the rural cities that you depend on your staff to go. I can't, I'm on the road 24/7, but I can't do 25/8. So, in some of those, you have to have your staff go and make the case as to why I would deliver the kind of services that these cities need. I'm a manager. I'm a team builder, and that's what I do. I've shown I can do it in City Hall for 12 years. I've shown I can do it in my foundation, where we give away $800 million a year. I've shown I can do it in my company. We have 20,000 employees around the world. I bring in people, I manage them, I support them, I get them resources, I adjudicate when they have problems, I have their backs when they make a mistake. That's the ways you run an organization that has 4 million employees and 330 million people to serve. And I think if you don't have a management background, you just can't do it. And I think we've seen that in Washington.
Recently, on the issue of stop and frisk, you issued an apology and talked about that. What errors in leadership that led you to endorse that in the first place? Can you talk about that? And how, as president, would you change your line of thinking so that similar decisions are made?
If you make a mistake, the sign of leadership, the sign of confidence in yourself is to stand up and say, I screwed up. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I've learned from it, and I would do something different the next time. Anybody that doesn't say that, number one, they're not honest. Number two, I don't respect them. And number three, they're not going to take risks going forward in the future. And you want people to take risks and try new things. I focused from the day I got into office on reducing the murder rate, most of which in New York City were young minority men, both as the victims and as the perpetrators. We used the technique, which is what all cities do. I think in the third term, I realized it had grown out of control. Tried a little experiment, stopped it, saw whether the crime rate went up or down. It didn't do either. So I said, well, let's stop it. Cut out 95% of it before I left office. And then since then, I've apologized, and I wish I'd apologized earlier.
On the murder rate in New York City, or the number dropped in about half while you were mayor.
650 to 300, rough
335.
Okay. Yeah, but it went to 335, and then it went down to 280, and now it's back over 300.
But while you were mayor, a large part of that was implementing gun control policies. In Arkansas, we have the seventh highest...
Not gun control, background checks. Don't confuse the two. There is a background check required by federal law if you go to a gun store. They cannot sell to people that are minors, have criminal records, or psychiatric problems. Since that law was in place, then internet sales and gun show sales were created. But the law didn't cover them, and now the Congress doesn't want to approach that, do that. So now you need state laws, not to take away anybody's guns, not to control, is the wrong word, just to have background checks. I think the place we should control is we should not sell AK-47s to individuals. They're designed for the military to kill as many people as possible in the shortest period of time. There's no excuse for anybody to have that. And keep in mind, when people shoot, it's very hard to hit a target. Cops only hit the target 10% of the time. With an AK-47, you're going to hit an awful lot of innocent people.
In a state like Arkansas, we consistently have one of the highest rates of gun homicides in the nation. Yet our lawmakers unfailingly don't support the kind of policies you're talking about. Well, so how do you change that?
I'm trying to convince them. We have Moms Demand Action and other organizations which I fund. And certainly do enough commercials to try to convince people. I think that the public should call their legislators and go stand outside their offices and say, this carnage can't continue, stop it. And if enough people do that, compared to the people that say don't do it, legislators will change. Democracy works. Legislators, because they want to get reelected, really do listen. You've got to make your voice heard.
Mm-hmm. How much of were the laws you were talking about, how much do you attribute the drop in the murder rate and violence to those laws, and how much do you attribute it to other factors?
I don't think there's any other factors that make any sense. Gun manufacturers have been working 24/7 for a number of years now, and certainly since the beginning of the Obama administration, slowed down when he left office. I don't know if they've been gone up or down in the last month or so. But the manufacturers are making guns 24/7, and yet the number of households that have guns have gone from 35% down to 25% over the last few years. So where do the guns go? People that have guns tend to have lots of them. They say they're collectors, but they just want a lot of guns. The more guns you have, the more likely that a kid's going to get their hands on them, or domestic violence going to take place. You are 21 or 22, I forget which number, times as likely to get murdered in your home if you have a gun than if you don't have a gun. Mm-hmm. And it's because of domestic violence and accidents and children playing.
Mm-hmm. We have time for one more.
One more?
Last one.
Should there be any restrictions on international business opportunities for members of the first family?
I think the appearance for any elected official, not just the first family, for any of them, the appearance of a conflict is wrong. Even if in practice there is no conflict, image is you are the leaders and you have a responsibility. So for example, I don't take any money. I can afford to fund my own campaign, but I don't even take a dollar bill. Everybody says take $1 from everybody, then you could get in the debates. No, because the image that I want to have, which I had for 12 years in City Hall and trying to create this, is I'm incorruptible. If you want to make a good case, you'll get your way. If you don't make a good case, you're not, but it's not going to be because of a gift or even the implied gift.